I was around Ashton Kutcher and Diddy before, and they were speaking about Brittany Murphy. And I don't think I ever told this story, and I'm about to tell this story.
Brittany, please come back.
We don't know why things play out the way they do sometimes. Ashton Kutcher just flipped the whole game after realizing he might be headed to prison alongside Diddy. After years of staying quiet, Ashton is now allegedly ready to expose how Diddy was tied to Brittany Murphy's sudden and suspicious death. And trust me, it's looking real bad. But that's not even the wildest part. See, the hospital where Brittany was rushed after collapsing, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, has a seriously shady rep. This is the same hospital linked to Biggie, Pop Smoke, and a long list of celebs whose deaths never quite added up. And just like Brittany, every single one of these cases somehow circles back to Diddy. Either the victims were pronounced dead under murky circumstances, or the autopsy reports were so sloppy that there wasn't enough evidence to go after anyone. What is really happening behind those hospital doors? But now, with the feds closing in and Brittany's case being dragged back into the spotlight after more than a decade, word is Ashton's on edge, ready to spill the truth if that's what it takes to save himself. At first glance, this might sound far-fetched, but once you hear how Ashton, Diddy, and Brittany were all connected, you'll never see them the same way again. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get right into it. Before diving into Diddy's link to Brittany Murphy's death, let's rewind to his eyebrow-raising relationship with Ashton Kutcher. Now that Diddy's trial is in full swing, people are combing through his past like detectives, hunting for every red flag they missed. And guess whose name keeps popping up? Ashton Kutcher. Crazy, right? Because if you just woke up today, you'd probably never think Ashton and Diddy even ran in the same circles. But you'd be shocked just how far back these two go. According to OK Magazine, their friendship kicked off in the early 2000s and it took off fast. Ashton even talked about it on Hot Ones in 2019, calling their relationship bizarre. It all started when Diddy told Ashton, "Yo, you can't punk me," and Ashton clapped back with, "I don't know what to tell you, everybody's on the table." That moment sparked a whole vibe between them, and from there, they were constantly hanging out, watching football, chillin', the whole nine. But with Diddy now under the microscope, people are giving Ashton major side-eye. For years, both their names were quietly tied to Brittany Murphy's tragic and mysterious death, and now those whispers are getting louder. Brittany Murphy, who passed away under shady circumstances in 2009, may have left behind not just clues, but a desperate cry for help. What's shocking isn't just what Brittany said, it's who she feared back then. Those close to her thought Brittany was spiraling, but now, that so-called paranoia looks like she was desperately trying to survive in her final months. Friends and family described her as completely withdrawn, terrified, convinced that someone was after her. She even told people she thought she was being poisoned. Everyone chalked it up to stress or mental health struggles, but looking back, this was something way darker. And the way her autopsy was handled was a total disaster. There were red flags from day one. The coroner refused to take a deep dive into what really caused her death. They slapped pneumonia and anemia on the report. But experts revisiting the case say the toxicology never quite added up. That's when people started whispering about a full-on cover-up, like powerful players tampering with evidence to bury the truth. Now, with Diddy's trial exposing just how far his control reached in Hollywood, the chaos is pulling Ashton into the shadows too, and it's looking real suspicious. Here's where things get even messier. Ashton Kutcher, Hollywood's golden boy and self-proclaimed anti-trafficking advocate, was also one of the last people tied to another extremely suspicious celebrity death, Ashley Ellerin. He was one of the last people to see her alive, and though he was cleared of suspicion, Ashton's image isn't as squeaky clean as folks once thought. Him rebranding as a trafficking activist while rolling with Diddy, and seeing the very dark stuff Diddy's now being charged with, is pure hypocrisy. No wonder some say Ashton's campaign was just a slick PR move to keep the heat off himself. A calculated distraction. And now, things start clicking together. Because other folks who allegedly knew too much about what Diddy was up to behind the scenes, especially regarding trafficking and control in Hollywood, have ended up just like Brittany, sudden illness, natural causes, gone before they could fully speak out. We'll be digging into those cases too. Stories like this always sound like wild conspiracies, until they don't. When more than one victim dies under the same sketchy conditions, and when the same names keep popping up in sealed testimonies, it gets harder to ignore. We're barely scratching the surface. Stick around. Once we dive into other silenced celebs, the full scope of Diddy's dark influence, and why Ashton might have been pushing the trafficking angle to dodge deeper scrutiny, things are gonna get intense. So the big question is, Why is Brittany's name back in the headlines nearly 16 years later? Who gained from her death? And how could Ashton end up going down with Diddy? Let's start answering those questions. Some of you might not even remember Brittany Murphy, so here's the rundown. Back in the early 2000s, Brittany was that girl, crushing iconic roles in Clueless, 8 Mile, and Just Married. And it was on the Just Married set where she met Ashton. She was skyrocketing to the top, until out of nowhere in 2009, she passed away at just 32. The official cause? Pneumonia, anemia, and a mix of prescription meds. But even then, nobody believed that. Her death seemed way too sudden, way too off. And then came the plot twist. Just 5 months later, her husband Simon Monjack died in the same house, from the exact same cause: pneumonia and anemia. What are the odds? 2 people, same symptoms, same place, months apart? It never sat right. Wild theories started flying, first blaming toxic mold. That theory got traction online, but when investigators tested the place, nothing dangerous was found. Still, whispers grew louder, especially when Brittany's own dad refused to buy the official story. He even hired a private investigator. That's when reports leaked, showing signs of heavy metal poisoning in Brittany's body, especially in her hair. This was a slow poison, something meant to take her out over time. Then things turned even darker. In 2018, Diddy's ex Kim Porter also died under extremely suspicious circumstances. Her official cause of death? The same pneumonia that claimed Brittany and Simon. And just like Brittany, Kim had reportedly been terrified before she passed. Some say she felt watched, even poisoned. Exactly what Brittany had told her circle before her own death. So where does Diddy fit in? His name has floated in conspiracies for years, from Biggie and Tupac's deaths to more recent claims of using threats to control the people around him. By now, Diddy being accused of silencing folks is nothing new. Remember what Cassie Ventura revealed in court? She said when she tried to leave Diddy and ran to Kid Cudi, Diddy allegedly snapped, threatening to take out Cudi and blow up his car if Cassie didn't come back. The threat was so chilling because of how calculated Diddy allegedly was, like he'd done it before and knew exactly how to cover it up. That's why people keep circling his name back to Hollywood's most disturbing unsolved moments. Now, back to Brittany Murphy. Ashton and Brittany had a brief romance, about 5 months, but even after breaking up, Ashton never fully disappeared from her orbit. His name kept floating quietly in the background. And here's where it gets super shady. After dating Brittany, Ashton moved on to Demi Moore, a total Hollywood power grab. But rumors say he and Brittany were still secretly linking up behind the scenes. And it gets even sketchier knowing that Demi and Ashton were allegedly deep in those elite secretive circles, including Diddy's infamous freak-offs. So was Brittany getting too close to secrets she was never supposed to know? And when Brittany passed, Ashton didn't even post a simple tribute. Not one word in her honor. No mention, no goodbye, just silence. It just didn't sit right with a lot of folks. And it sure doesn't now, especially with fans finally seeing the truth behind Brittany's glittery image. She wasn't just the bubbly star we all saw on screen. She was in deep pain, stuck in a toxic love, and allegedly being manipulated and financially drained by her own husband, Simon Monjack. Brittany felt trapped, scared, and paranoid, a fear she confided to people close to her. She sensed that something was off, that someone might have been out to harm her. Then, one cold December morning in 2009, Brittany collapsed on her bathroom floor. She was gone at just 32 years old. So yeah, the case is heating up again, and for good reason. Multiple insiders claim there's renewed interest in whether Brittany's death ties into this whole tangled mess. Not because hard evidence has suddenly popped up, but because the patterns and timing are just way too suspicious. If federal investigators are truly reopening Brittany's case after all these years, something big must have triggered that. They wouldn't be doing this for no reason. Word is, Diddy's legal team has been getting slammed with surprises ever since this trial kicked off. And they're shaking. No one knows what bombshell the prosecution might drop next. And if the Brittany connection is part of it, that could be the final nail in the coffin. The similarities across these cases are just too glaring to ignore. And whatever's going on behind closed doors, the feds aren't spilling details yet. But for those who've been watching this story for years, the idea that these events might be linked isn't new. What is new is that someone in power might finally be asking the right questions. When 2 young women, both living fast-paced lives under the Hollywood spotlight, both reportedly terrified for their safety, end up dead in almost identical ways, and the same man's name keeps floating around in the background, yeah, people start connecting those dots. Whether or not there's a trail of solid evidence yet, this story is not fading away. In fact, it's gaining even more eyes. But hold up, the plot thickens. Let's rewind to the exact day Brittany Murphy passed. Her mom, Sharon, who was staying in the house with them, made the 911 call after Brittany collapsed in the bathroom. Paramedics tried to save her, but by 10 a.m., Brittany was pronounced dead. The official story? Pneumonia, anemia, and a mix of meds. But those results sounded bizarre back then, and sound even more bizarre now. Here's why. The moment she passed, Simon, her husband, tried to block the autopsy. Seriously, if your wife suddenly dies at 32, wouldn't you want answers? Wouldn't you be begging for the truth? But not Simon. If anything, he downplayed it, claiming she was only taking herbal supplements and cough meds. And Brittany's mom backed him up at first, swearing her daughter didn't use drugs or alcohol. But later, Sharon admitted Brittany was terrified before she died. She believed someone was out to get her. She even told her mom that someone wanted her gone. And this wasn't some random fear. Brittany stopped eating unless the food came directly from her or her mom. She installed high-level security, fingerprint locks, cameras, the whole setup. That kind of fear doesn't come out of nowhere. Then Simon also died in the same house just 5 months later, from the exact same strange illness. That's when folks started wondering about toxic mold. It sounded like a possible cause, until Simon and Brittany's mom brought it up themselves, and then blocked the mold testing. Like, why mention it and then refuse to check for it? Eventually, top forensic pathologist Dr. Richard Shepard shut it all down. He confirmed there were 0 signs of mold, no spores, nothing in either Brittany's or Simon's bodies. So, what really happened? Why did Brittany's closest people say she wasn't acting like herself before she passed? Word on the street is that she stumbled onto something she was never supposed to see, something super secretive. And that's when she started feeling watched, like certain Hollywood elites had eyes on her, and that she was being poisoned. But then again, there's Simon Monjack. That man was shady. Brittany's friends couldn't believe how he even got close to her. His history was a mess. Lawsuits, unpaid bills, shady deals. Not to mention he started seeing Brittany when she was just 17. After they got married, Simon wasted no time. He took full control of her life and career. He fired her entire team, took over her finances, and even limited her access to her own phone and email. According to reports, he kept her locked in the house, and they rarely went out unless they were together. Brittany's friends believe Simon played a much bigger role in all of this than he ever admitted. Why else would he try to block an autopsy? And why would he die the exact same way in the same house just months later? Same illness, same suspicious circumstances. That's either the creepiest Hollywood coincidence ever, or there was something way darker going down in that house. One theory floating around? Simon might have been told to do something to Brittany, like spike her coffee with some weird chemical he didn't even understand. Maybe he thought it was harmless, just some type of medication to help with her anxiety or boost her mood. But then, boom, Brittany drops dead, and everything spirals out of control. So when Simon refused that autopsy, that wasn't random. It could have been him trying to cover his own tracks before anyone connected the dots. But months later, boom, he's gone too. And that's when people started saying he didn't just die. He got taken out clean-up style, like the elites were tying up loose ends, erasing evidence, silencing anyone who knew too much. Once the whole toxic mold excuse fell apart, that's when things really spiraled into a straight-up nightmare. Even folks who originally thought Brittany's death was just a tragic fluke started admitting how suspicious it looked. As more puzzle pieces popped up, everyone started rethinking everything. Now, let's zoom in on that autopsy real quick. Remember what I told you, Brittany's dad wasn't buying the official story, so he took matters into his own hands and had her hair tested by a private lab. And what they found? Not just some minor exposure. Nope, massive levels of heavy metals, antimony, barium, the kind of chemicals you'd expect in pesticides, rat poison, even warfare toxins. That's not some casual environmental exposure that screams slow, calculated poisoning. And when the original coroner was asked why this wasn't picked up, the answer was basically, we don't test for that unless there's clear reason to suspect something shady. But come on, Brittany literally said she thought someone was poisoning her. How is that not reason enough to dig deeper? And it doesn't stop there. Corey Haim also passed just weeks after Brittany. Same kind of symptoms, same pneumonia label, same coroner. Then, Kim Porter dies under similarly mysterious, flu-like circumstances. And finally, Simon. That's 4 people, back to back, with weirdly similar deaths and the same fear trailing behind them. Now here's one more bombshell that makes this whole story beyond twisted. Downright uncomfortable. Even after Brittany and Simon were both gone, her mom Sharon was still backing Simon's version of events. And right after Simon passed, Sharon didn't waste any time. She sold the house and suddenly dropped the whole mold story she'd been pushing. Just like that. Why switch up so fast? Why stop fighting if you believed something shady was happening, unless you already knew exactly what time it was? There were even whispers that Sharon and Simon had been a little too close after Brittany passed. And we're not just talking emotional support. Some insiders say the vibe between them felt low-key romantic, even emotionally entangled. If there's even a shred of truth to that, then this whole situation goes way deeper than anyone thought. Here's the bottom line. Diddy's name got dragged into this mess because allegedly, Brittany had been poking around, asking questions about his infamous underground FO parties. And she found out about them through Ashton. By now, we all know those parties were loaded with sketchy stuff. Blackmail ops, trafficking rumors, high-level secrets nobody was supposed to speak on. Brittany might have seen too much and started asking too many questions. Maybe she wanted out. Maybe she tried to speak up. And in Hollywood, speaking is all it takes to get erased. 2 deaths. Same house, same weird symptoms. Same eerie silence. And with every single new detail that comes out, this feels less like a tragedy and more like a straight-up cover-up. There's just way too much that doesn't sit right. The poisoning, the elite connections, the silence from people who should have been screaming for answers. Even Brittany's own mom going silent. It's giving total setup. And the deeper you dig, the uglier it gets. So yeah, do I think this case should be reopened? Absolutely. Brittany wasn't just a star. She was a young woman, scared for her life, and she deserved protection, not silence. If people like Diddy, Ashton, or anyone in those elite circles had even a whisper of involvement, it is time to stop sweeping things under the red carpet and finally demand the truth. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Is there more to Brittany's death than we've been told? Drop your take in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.